Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 85 of the E-Show. And on this week's episode, we feature the Maine Eclipse, one of the newest franchises in the league. Following the shutdowns that took place during the 2020-21 campaign, Eric Michaud is referring to this upcoming season as Expansion Year 2.0 for his organization. Serving as both the EHLP Head Coach as well as the General Manager for the entire program, Michaud is embracing the pressure that comes with getting off on the right foot this fall. Michaud and the rest of the staff for the Eclipse feel fortunate to have a brief taste of experience from this past year and are eager to get the new season started. I'm joined now by Eric Michaud, the General Manager and EHLP Head Coach for the Maine Eclipse. How's it going, Eric?
Good, Neil. How are you?
Good, and thanks for coming on the E-Show podcast for the first time. I know last year we had Mike Grace on, so welcome to the E-Show podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
And as we get closer and closer to the beginning of this upcoming season, I kind of have to start this interview by asking the tough question, if you will, and looking back on this past year, when the state shutdown in the state of Maine happened for you guys, did it come as almost like a complete shock?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of different aspects that kind of worked against us. With the state of Maine shutting down, unfortunately, a lot of the businesses shut down for out-of-state travel. So we didn't really have much of an option to travel with our programs, especially on the charter bus, which most of our trips would have required. Yep. And unfortunately, those charter buses were operating to other states. So we made the decision as a group to kind of suspend operations for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and reflecting on last year, whenever I talk with people about what it was like, the 2020-21 season, I always point out that of all the states within our footprint that had the restrictions that they put in place, there really was no state that felt like it was stricter than the state of Maine. Did you guys kind of have that same feeling?
Yes, most definitely. I mean, it is what it is, considering we're the only team in our state, in our league. Mm-hmm. So obviously we didn't have the option to really play teams in our state like other teams. But yeah, no, we definitely felt like they're a lot more strict in most states, especially with even youth hockey too. I mean, The whole state just seemed to shut down in general.
And I think when I said the word surprising or shock earlier, I think the tough part is we were in basically mid-November at the time, and we had just started to kind of reset the schedule where our teams were staying within these pods, if you will, divisions. And I think that's what kind of stood out to me is we had just finished that meeting. And then a day or two later, you guys had to make that decision. When you made that decision, though, you did set a goal for yourself to try and keep some EHLP players around and finish a quote unquote exhibition type year with them. What were you able to complete throughout the rest of the year last season?
Yeah, so like you said, we kept some premier players around. We were able to bring in some other players as well that maybe weren't happy in other leagues or even weren't playing in other leagues. So we were able to have about 15 full-time guys with us, and then obviously some guys would pick up for games. But we partnered with some of the local U18 programs and just played kind of a 15 to 20 game schedule. And obviously we had the ice at our rink still, so we just practiced every day, most of the time twice a day. So we were able to get a lot of development for those guys that practice at least 15 hours a week. It was a lot of ice for them. But I have full confidence in saying every single one of them got better after.
Well, that's awesome to hear. And with that group, did any of them ever like push for more? And when I mean more, like wanting to play more games or play out of the state, or did they understand kind of what they had was what they're going to get?
Yeah, I mean, most kids understood. I mean, we had some kids, like I said, who weren't happy with other programs, and they may have came in for a weekend just to play, or something like that. But I mean, we were able to also place some kids where we wanted to watch them succeed as well. So we kind of had a good mixture of guys that we could, I don't know, bring in and utilize.
And when you look back on the EHL side of things, when the shutdown all took place, you were fresh off of a 5-1 victory over the Wolves. You had picked up, that was your third win of the year at the EHL level. There were a handful of 1-goal games in there. Did it feel like with that group, you had just started to kind of turn the corner when everything got shut down?
Yes, sir. We have spoken about that actually many times, as well, me and Michael as well have spoken about that, how we thought we were about to turn the corner. I mean, we eventually moved on some pretty decent players that ended up having some pretty good years in some other EHL sweaters. So it was kind of nice to follow them. Obviously, our circumstances were unfortunate, but it was nice to follow them throughout the season and see them do well.
And I was going to ask that next because a lot of players were able to find new homes from that group, which I'm sure was encouraging for you. But to touch on a couple in particular, when you see players like Ryan Terse and Justin Gusso move to other EHL teams and really just entertain instant success throughout the rest of the year, was there kind of a sense of pride that made you guys feel in your organization?
Definitely, yeah, I agree 100% with that. It kind of proves that we were on the right track, so to speak, that we were moving in the right direction. Obviously, like we said, we were starting to gel at that particular time. Who knows where the squad could have gone in the future, but obviously it couldn't happen. But no, to see them succeed and especially get college commitments, eventually it's very rewarding. And obviously, congrats to them. It's awesome for them. They obviously deserved it. So,
the one that I got to see the most and having a chance to call a lot of Wizards game last year was Ryan Terse, and I thought one of the funniest / coolest, most unique, if you will, moments was when Terse pulled off the Michigan move against the Worcester Railers, which is where Mike Grace, the EHL head coach, ended up. Was there a conversation after that goal went down, or was it kind of like you knew that he could pull off something like that?
Oh, I know for a fact that Michael Grace was shaking his head on the bench, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, we actually he would try it all the time in practice, also in games when he was with us. So we knew it was a matter of time before he got one. We actually did have one Michigan on our team too. Conrad Smith had one too. Okay. So we had some pretty talented guys in that group.
And once the year last year ended, like you mentioned before, you were able to keep some EHL players around and put together a development type season for them. Once the year ended, did it feel like it was finally time to kind of take a breath and reset?
100%. I mean, probably as for everyone, it was just not a normal year. We've been talking about this for a while too. I've been listening to the other podcasts. It's just, we're looking forward to normalcy. Last year was far from it. The last 2 years even. So we're looking forward to the normal. It was definitely a sigh of relief that we could turn the page and actually look forward to league play and playing some games that actually matter and striving towards an ultimate goal as a team.
Does this year for you personally feel like the inaugural season for your organization or not really?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we have our first franchise wins under our belt. We have some big wins. We have some prominent players that ended up moving on. But I call it expansion year part 2 or 2.0. It honestly, it just is what it is. Until you have one full season in the books, it is what it is. So we're going to treat it that way and build a competitive culture from the beginning and start from there.
Do you feel like this year you're gonna lean back on the short experience that you had from this past year, or like you said, is there kind of just clean slate? Let's start this thing all over.
I think we definitely learned from some of our mistakes that we could. I mean, we got to kind of have the upbringing of the team with training camp and the kind of growing pains of being an expansion team. But ultimately, we had to shut down. So we got to kind of experience the whirlwind of the beginning of the season. And honestly, like you said, when we got off that Zoom, we thought we were in the kind of the home stretch until 2 days later. So yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, but we're looking forward to it.
And for yourself personally, prior to your time with the Eclipse, you had spent time a little bit further north in Maine, up in Lewiston with the Maine Nordiques, who of course have an NA team and an NA3 team. What was that experience for yourself personally as a coach?
Honestly, it was my first kind of real gig because I was at the University of Maine as a student when I worked for their program. So it was my first kind of real coaching job there. And I've learned a tremendous amount. It was my first behind the bench gig as well. So overall, I kind of gained my philosophies from being behind the bench with the Nordiques and learning from those coaches, a lot of prominent coaches that have been around the game for a while. So yeah, I was able to learn a good amount from them to lay a foundation, especially for this level of juniors.
And as you've kind of progressed since that time, you've added the general manager title to your overall role with the Eclipse organization. When you were able to add that to your belt, if you will, how did that make you feel?
It was definitely a nice feeling. We're just kind of had a lot of conversations as a group about putting people in the right positions so we can succeed. And the ownership group of everyone, Jimmy, Scott, Patrick, kind of all agreed that I had a good head on my shoulders, enough to lead the program and be the face, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I obviously obliged. It's a great feeling to be able to be the leader, and obviously we can hopefully have success coming forward here.
And as you look forward to this upcoming year, having been through what you've been through, throughout your career, and then of course the organization as a whole this past year, do you guys have written goals already set out for this upcoming season, or is it kind of take on those goals and figure out those goals once things get started?
I think definitely our goal would be obviously to compete for a playoff spot and just make the playoffs for both programs. We want to be competitive, and we want to be competitive from the start, hopefully. But I mean, we're also going to sit down with our teams and with our guys when they come in and see where their head's at. And I mean, we have a couple exhibition games before the season starts here with some other EHL programs, so it'll be a good gauge, and they'll be able to see where they're at as well. So
yeah. And since everything got shut down last year, one thing that I've noticed that you guys have been able to, take advantage of with that time is to put more into the amenities that you have to offer, if you will. What have you guys added to your program that can help set you apart?
Yeah, we just bought a new charter bus, which is nice, a 58 passenger charter bus. So we'll be able to fit both teams in there if we need to, or obviously one team if we have one game.
Yeah.
And also we recently upgraded our gym area. We purchased about $5,000 worth of gym equipment, newer gym equipment, so we can kind of have a newer kind of program, so to speak. We'll be able to have more guys working out at one time and occupying the facility rather than people sitting around and waiting. So we'll be able to use more of our machines and facility per guy. So it'll be nice. And
the one thing that you didn't mention in there were some locker room renovations as well for you guys, right?
Correct. Yeah, we actually just finished putting the carpet in to both locker rooms. 2 newly renovated locker rooms. They're very nice. Kind of each room has its own kind of color scheme, all associated with the Eclipse and obviously our neon green. color scheme. So, but yeah, no, they're really nice. We've been able to work well with the Biddeford Ice Arena to have 2 nice spaces, a nice storage area, and even a nice coach office too. Every locker room has access to video, which is nice as well. So we're all set up and ready to go this year.
Hey, for me personally too, being from Maine myself, I know you had that taste last year, but for me as well, it does feel like your inaugural year. So I'm pumped to officially, in quotes, have a team in Maine. So I wish you the best of luck with the rest of the off season and as we get started here with the 21-22 season.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.